All right, you guys know the news by now. The Giants officially fired defensive coordinator Shane Bowen after another loss where they held a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. Interim head coach Mike Kafka just got off of a Zoom call with the media where he addressed the Bowen firing. So let's break it down, the decision, with our NFL reporter Ryan Dunleavy, who was on the call and even asked some questions. Ryan, thanks for hopping on with us so fast after that call. Fans feel like this is something that should have been done a while ago. So what did Mike Kafka say about his decision to finally fire Shane Bowen, and who did Kafka say is now going to call plays on defense?
So the timing for Bowen, Kafka said he didn't want to make any rash decisions when he took over 2 weeks ago as their interim head coach. Obviously, things haven't changed. He spent a lot of time around the defense. The results just aren't changing. It's the same game every week. So Kafka said he felt like now was the right time to make the decision, and especially with an extra day to prepare for the Patriots since they play on Monday night. And then obviously they'll have 2 weeks after that to get the house in order because they have a bye. It'll be Charlie Bullen, the outside linebacker coach, which is an interesting choice, praised by his players quite often, but not as familiar with Kafka as some of the other assistants who have been here longer than Charlie Bullen, a second-year guy, and not the play calling experience that Marquand Manuel has as a former Falcons defensive coordinator. So interesting choice by Mike Kafka.
Two-part question. You say he didn't want to rush the decision to fire Bowen. One, was it his decision? Two, did he speak on his decision to make Charlie the defensive coordinator as opposed to a Marquand Manuel or another coach on staff that he has more familiarity with?
Yeah. So first, he did say it was my decision, but then when he was asked to clarify, he said that Joe Shane is involved in all those high-level football decisions, which is interesting because obviously Joe Shane's on his own hot seat, and Joe Shane and Charlie Bullen go back. They were together with the Falcons from 2012 with the Dolphins from 2012 to 2017. So obviously Joe Shane's comfortable with Charlie Bullen too. Maybe that has some influence on why he's the choice. But I do like that Kafka always says everything is his decision. That seems to be the way he's going to go here. He did that with the Jameis Winston move too. Um, and then, yeah, Charlie Bullen, I think, is a guy who, like I said, I think people will rally around. He's an energetic guy. He's active. He's a guy who's been under some bright defensive coordinators. Vance Joseph comes to mind. So I think he's kind of seen as like a riser in the profession, and he's got a lot to prove, just like Kafka has a lot to prove here in these next 5 games.
Something that stood out in that loss to the Lions yesterday was Dexter Lawrence not being in the game or on the field during that overtime touchdown run. We heard Carl Banks go on a rant during the game when calling out why Dexter Lawrence wasn't on the field. Did Mike Kafka kind of clear up why Dex was on the sideline during an important play?
Yeah, I thought this was interesting. Good question, Brandon. I thought this was interesting because obviously the news of the day is the change at defensive coordinator, which, by the way, I don't think is going to change much for the Giants. As you and I have talked about, it's the Jimmies and Joes at this point who have to step up. But to your question about Dexter Lawrence, one of those Jimmies and Joes, the best Jimmy maybe, my Dexter Lawrence, Kafka said, was crying actually in tears on the sideline that he couldn't contribute more to that game, he was so nicked up that they had to be limited. He wanted to be out there with the guys. I thought that was interesting because one, you don't hear about guys crying very often. Two, that was Kafka. You could say it was covering for his guy. Dexter Lawrence is not a excuses guy. He's not a share much guy. So he's never going to tell you how hurt he is. We've asked him a million times if he's hurt, and he's one of those if I'm out there, I'm not hurt kind of guys. So I think that was Kafka providing some necessary cover for Dexter Lawrence. That certainly changes the conversation, I think, for people who are like, you have to be out there if you can. There's a difference between injury and hurt, and you have to be out there if you can be. And like, well, if he's crying, if a 375-pound man is crying on the sideline, my guess is he was pretty banged up.
Yeah, and he wanted to be out there with his teammates, with his brothers. Yesterday, Ryan, during the post-game live stream, I asked you who are you blaming the Giants' defensive collapses and struggles on, the X's and O's or the Jimmys and Joes? Now, after talking or hearing Mike Kafka kind of speak to the media today, where do you think he's leaning on that blame, the coaches or the players?
Yeah, I think yeah. I mean, once you fire the defensive coordinator, it seems like you're blaming the coach, right? So I mean, he was talking about how they hung in with a really with a Super Bowl contender, how he saw a lot of fight from the guys. And like, yeah, I see that too for 3 quarters. I just think there's something to being out to your players being able to close out a game. If you look around the NFL yesterday, you see all kinds of examples. I don't get to sit home and watch NFL football on a Sunday a lot. I'm usually at a Giants or Jets game. You see all kinds of examples yesterday of players stepping up and closing out victories, and that's what the Giants haven't had. So clearly, he's putting it on the coaches. Do I expect Charlie Bullen to come in here and be like the difference, and now all of a sudden the Giants are going to close out games? I expect if the Giants are going to close out games, I expect it's going to be because Brian Burns got a strip sack, or because Javon Holland made a pick, or because Paulson Adebo made a big play. Like that's what the Giants need to happen, no matter who is calling the plays. Unless all of a sudden they're getting like a Vic Fangio or a Vance Joseph in here, though, somebody who's a proven difference maker as a coordinator.
All right, Ryan Dunleavy, never a dull day in Giants land. Appreciate your time, my man.